this team fight. If they didn't get the side lanes going, Jace in a team fight is a lot more situational. So I don't really see... for sure, Jin Air have to ban Jace, right? Against Keen, he's the best Jace we have in Korea next to Khan. So don't really see the thought process there. But we do see one adjustment ban. We do see... No, sorry, Lucian was banned. So it's actually same bans, a makeover for game number 3. First pick for Jin Air this time. They went really high on Galio priority, but I don't think every team is going to be Galio first round. And Jin Air decide first round Ezreal. I guess with aiming in the roster, they have someone who's been more willing to go to Ezreal, but I don't think aiming is one of our impressive Ezreal players, and he's been caught quite a lot at pivotal moments. So kind of hard to say whether they rate the fact that Ezreal gives him more escapability, or whether they really feel like Root can perform, but they take the Ezreal and they're greeted by one of those reliable picks in the Lissandra, and of course, one of the accomplices in the Galio they were running in series number 1.
It's like Afreeca want to take Jin Air's game 1 comp and throw it right back at them. As he's doing a little bit more trolling here, as he did in game 1. We will see the Tom Kench come on through with that Ezreal.
What are they first rounding is what I'm interested with Jin Air. Who they will actually pick for here. They can just pick an easy-to-use jungler. We usually do see a lane like Ryze is banned away right into the Lissandra. They're going to go with Syndra versus Lissandra, so that's the end result here. They look at what they know, which is likely the mid lane pick for Brook. Brook has already struggled heavily in this exact matchup, and it might just be the impetus for Keen to take the Lissandra mid lane, or for some lane swaps to happen.
I do like the idea. Maybe even throw in a little bit of psychology up against Brook and say,
all right,
okay,
here's
Afreeca,
some psychology.
Yeah, gonna take the Vayne this time around again.
But this might be aiming's pick. If you were watching the LPL yesterday, RNG versus FPX, when RNG broke FPX's win streak, one of those games was Uzi Vayne into an Ezreal. So maybe this is just looking at the names and saying, I don't feel like Root's Ezreal's going to punish enough and just run 2v2 lane with the aiming Vayne. We'll get more information on that as time goes on. Banning-wise, with no junglers selected, all the high priority early game ones are being targeted. Feels like Dread has the extended bench of aggressive picks. Usually with a Vayne though, you fall into a tank jungler because you're like, aha, I need to something to support my Vayne. I would have much preferred some aggression and just swap the Vayne around to either solo lane or duo lane as necessary, but a lot of the aggressive picks are being removed.
A lot of what we saw in the second round of the second game, actually, and the second round of the first game by Jin Air as well. A lot of Rek'Sai Olaf band together when there are junglers still left available. And, well, I mean, we saw Jarvan, Lissandra, and Galio win game number 1 for the side of Jin Air, so they deny the Jarvan this time around.
But then don't you just lock in Lee Sin, and C's not left with much? That's what I think here.
Laughing his head off.
Jarvan was, of course, going to be the answering counterpick we would have imagined to Lee Sin. So now you super price Afreeca into Lee Sin, and Jin Air needs to convince us this is a next level. They actually have something they want to draft on blue side. They need to pick top lane and jungle. And where will C's go? We don't know much about his champion pool. Nocturne's gone. So much is removed here. We might actually roll back all the way to the first day of the season when it was a different Jin Air Greenwings jungler in Malrang popping off on, at the time, the debut of Xin Zhao. Looking for a blind pick. We saw some blind pick GP on patch 9.2 LPL, 9.5 it might be back with the GP buffs, but it's not going to be played today. I don't think it would have been smart to go GP because I don't think they reliably dive bot lane that well with the draft they'd already put together. They don't have the Lissandra Galio, for example, so they're just going to go for a blind, sorry, Aatrox jungle, I guess, so Aatrox blind top lane and Xin Zhao jungle almost certainly. So pretty generic 9.1 draft on the side of Jin Air, and Afreeca, how do they answer it?
Okay.
We didn't even notice. Vladimir just left open the entire time, and they're going to just take Vladimir to try to overwhelm team comp-wise.
Yeah, you know, in our first series, Sandbox versus Damwon, we saw Vlad heavily contested and first picked. Of course, it was different players, but Vlad very high tier nowadays, and it was so funny to see it left until the last pick. Almost felt like Afreeca forgot about it as well. They were like, oh, wait, Vlad's available. Why would we ever pick Aurelia when we can pick Vlad? And yeah, they're going to go ahead and do it. And you were correct for now, yes. As the 20-second mark is passed, the Vayne will be going in the bot lane.
You can definitely lane Vayne into Ezreal. It's been a matchup as old as time. If you're one of the golden oldies out there and remember when Ezreal's Essence Flux W slowed attack speed, you would go Vayne into it, tumble around, and try to dodge that projectile. A lot of things to dodge, and Ezreal can just one-shot you as the game goes on. It's, of course, very, very squishy is the Vayne, but I think this might be a nameplate moment where, while Root has been good on Jhin Air, it's still Root and not one of our god-tier Ezreal players like Deft. Aiming being bold, though. It's making about him a little bit here. Laning 2v2 Vayne is something that goes really well or really poorly, and we'll see which school of thought it is, as someone's got to win down the bottom of the ladder between Jhin Air Greenwings and Afreeca Freecs.
Excited to see another Vayne game. This time around, it feels more safe. It feels like it makes a lot more sense. Keen gets onto a different type of carry as well. Can still do his own kind of late game carrying on the Vlad. We'll see if that does pan out, though, as we're going to jump into our final game of the night, Game 3, Jhin Air versus Afreeca. Fans staying here late into the night. It's already 10:40 about p.m. here in Korea. And that does mean if they stay until the end of this game, they risk potentially missing their last train home if they are living a bit away.
Valdez, both Afreeca and Jhin Air fans are so desperate for a win that maybe that cost is higher. Missing the first win for Jhin Air, or just one of the paltry few for Afreeca Freecs, when neither of these teams has really any hopes of the postseason. It's a pretty big cost to bear as well. So shout out to everyone around the world and those in Lol Park joining us for the 6th game of the day. And what does it mean for the JAG? So we're talking a lot about the Vayne on the side of Afreeca. Just press the attack Vayne in the 2v2 lane. On the Jhin Air side, they've got a lot to like, right? There's a lot of power in this job, even if it is a bit outdated compared to other 9.4 meta picks. Xin Zhao Aatrox should be able to chase down Vlad pretty well in a long lane, in the top lane, for example. Syndra beats Lissandra in the mid lane, and Brook looked very off the pace in terms of 1v1 laning on Lissandra against his last Syndra. It was definitely looking second class. A few days ago, Ezreal Tom, at least early, should be pretty damn comfortable on the bot side. So outside of Dread shenanigans, and they should probably be post level 6, the laning phase looks pretty comfortable for the side of Jhin Air. And also, earlier in the game, you have less scaling champions than the side of Afreeca Freecs. So there's windows for Jhin Air to push and push hard. You just feel like there might be a creeping doubt if Dread can get some ganks off and actually get extra gold that is unexpected based on the lane matchups to the side of Afreeca Freecs.
It's funny, the stat we saw that Brook, even though he had one of the worst early games of Lissandra versus Syndra, he somehow, on the back of his team, sparing his blushes, was able to win that game on the Lissandra. We'll see if he can recreate that moment here, perhaps up against an easier opponent.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend going back and watching that Dom 1 versus Afreeca game number 1. It wasn't a high-quality game, but Dread here first, though. He's lying away. There's a lot of patience. Seems like he was more interested in the big Raptor, though, than actually taking a gank.
Yeah.
He'll back away. But in that game, you know, it sounds like a pretty big thing to say it's one of the worst laning performances I've seen, but it was kind of everything in the kitchen sink when it comes to making mistakes. He was pathing predictably around the lane, so all the Qs were hitting from the enemy. That's always kind of a push and shove, right? It's prediction versus predictability, and it was just too predictable on his juking. He was also queuing the wave at the wrong moments. LS was making a lot of notes of this.
Yeah.
To just end up being frozen under the enemy turret, so is actually very eminently gankable in that case, and he was dying to gank. So it was just everything going wrong in terms of a laning phase. A very extended coaching VOD review was required there in terms of the 2v2. So far, at least the laning is in a better spot right now in terms of where the lane was. Dread going to be spotted on a ward, but Brook definitely has a lot to live up to game number 2.
See that Seas comes over, doesn't go for the Wolves, and now does a nice amount of damage here to Dread, but some pings from the bottom lane say, hey, Senin did just invade our jungle, as, okay, Grace trying to get a little bit frisky here, but running out of mana, and Brook is playing Lissandra.
actually really well played by the Xin Zhao. He goes in to try a play and then does lead to the first call. That's good trust from C's. With his duo lane, only having played a handful of games there. Brook forced out of lane the first time. Hopefully will not be forced out multiple times. Like last time we saw, why are you TPing into the minions, I would ask. I guess he really wants a freeze, but it's not going to happen. Could have just TP'd onto the turret there.
Yeah. I've done that before, and then I never did it again. It's definitely one of those mistakes that you're like, oh, probably should never do that again in my lifetime in League.
I think if you have your jungler there and you could try to get a freeze, it's fine, but that was just the wrong TP spot.
Yeah.
Power taken out of root. That's the sort of cooldown that can be relevant here with Sennen with his flash up. Jungle pathing for now, going to be a bit more defensive, but again, when it comes to innate advantage, organic advantage, as Frostmuren likes to say, there's a lot on Jinair's draft side, and Afreeca have, this kind of flexing 2v2 pick in the vein. They don't have the asterisk of, by the way, Uzi when it comes to aiming. Afreeca in the late game, I think, have a lot to like, though. Usually when you see Vayne comps, as Brook takes a lot of damage, it ends up being supports, right? Like Karma, tank, jungle, things. You don't see that this time from Afreeca, but think about how late game team fights look. There's many drafts where Vayne finds it very hard to function. She struggles against champions like Cassiopeia and really high-threat AoE champions that she just can't tumble and skill shots away from, right? In this game, she has all the AoE threats. Lissandra, Vlad, Galio, Taunt, and just Lee Sin's kick range. Those are things you have to respect as the enemy, and the idea is that aiming fights in between all of that AoE threat, kind of like an AD carry playing around a peeling cannon ult. That's what you have to look for in terms of fights. So that's where things get going, but that's much later. That's a Rage Blade, Zerka Greaves, and a Blade of Ruin King later. So until then, there's plenty of moments where Jinair should be able to outtrade.
And so far, it's not looking half bad. You can see they're already up about 500 gold. Small thing, but still early on, and comes down to some minions in the mid lane that are going the way of the Syndra instead of the Lissandra. So you talked about 2 winning lanes in game number 1. They were able to pull that off with some good jungle play from the side of C's. Well, they have 1 winning lane, just a bit for now. We'll see if they can get some of their other lanes ahead as well.
And of course, when it comes to the more kind of pro play winning, they do have priority top side. I actually would have really liked an extension of the window in which you can push in Vladimir by going early Executioner's Calling. It feels so bad, right? Because Aatrox desperately wants to get 40% CDR as fast as possible. But Executioner's Calling to really force the Vladimir into some tricky decisions and never have a comfortable health bar to wait for your jungle gank. Theory there is you get the Executioner's Calling, so Vlad's always below half health, and you never have breathing room to wait for your jungler to path topside. You need him there as soon as possible. Regardless, it's not going to be done for now, so then around walk in. They still get an invasion topside, but not at the cost of any Vladimir health bar.
You can see what Afreeca does. They see the Aatrox going in, Dread checks the red, notices it's gone, so they know that his red is gone. But that sparks them to send their team over to the enemy red.
However,
and it means that Afreeca's coming in here, but it looks like Jinair know about this.
We're coming in hot, Valdez.
Yeah, we are. Dread could be taking a bit of damage, and he does, but it's not going to be enough as the Lee Sin is slippery, and he will get away with the stolen red buff.
Okay, I think Jinair and Afreeca mostly made the right calls there. They're a little bit slower. They're not as razor sharp as a team like Griffin that really punishes you in map rotations, but information was on both sides. None of it was ignored, like Soul randomly walking up for the death in game number 1. And the end result ends up being a trade where the only kind of meaningful difference is that Jinair left vision where they went, Afreeca didn't, so small advantage in terms of map control, Jinair. They already had that given their lanes, so it doubles down on where they're strong.
Grace sitting on a kind of weird item build at the moment. Didn't have enough to go into that lost chapter, so just picks up the Dark Seal and a Mana Crystal for a long time. Has not backed now. Curious to see how much gold he has, as he's been sitting on this for a good 2-3 minutes.
In a losing matchup.
Oh, the stun, though, goes on to Brook. And he has to ult himself. He might be going down here, but we're taking a look at the bottom side, too. First Blood does go the way of Xin Zhao in the mid lane as he flashes on to Brook in the response. So nicely done by Jinair to get ahead.
Nerong actually had to use ultimate topside. That seems like a lot. When it's level 8 Vladimir to be discussed, Dread is spotted, or should have been spotted, on a control ward here.
Looks like they pinged it too, and Root and Nova just gonna back way back.
Definitely gave it away there, but that's safety first. Good call from Jin Air, because they actually came away with the kill, right? They got the kill in the mid lane. Able to get the kill onto Brook, who was too far up the lane. In spite of all of that, I was more focused on the bot side there, but Nova was able to cleanse Flash away. But with his summoners down, with Syndra on a recall, there could just be an objective around the weak side of the map anyway. This is probably more than Afreeca should have gotten, and Jin Air trying to punish them.
As you can see, the Lissandra sitting in the mid lane for now, as C's and Grace are going to get there first, so 4-on-3 for now, but it doesn't look like they can close the distance, as another stun is going to land on the Brook, but this time it's not going to delay that E, so Brook will get away this time.
Point I wanted to raise about the Sapphire Crystal, like you mentioned, was clearly on the way to the Lost Chapter is, it's actually relevant in this replay. It gives you access to more mana to keep harassing a winning lane. So in a losing lane, Sapphire Crystal doesn't do much. In a winning lane like this, where every Q was a danger of putting Brook into lethal range, the extra mana actually was relevant. He was owned by the end of the play, so with the mana, they pick up the kill. So playing towards items is good there. Now it's Lost Chapter and Sorcerer's Shoes, and more pain for Brook.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because I believe it is the same cost, the 350, the Dark Seal and the Sapphire Crystal, but instead of going double Dark Seal, you go for the Sapphire Crystal for the quicker Lost Chapter eventually. So
if you're fighting and the battle stats and just the portfolio stats you get from the Dark Seals there, I think you go that way. But in this case, when it was kind of Brook grinning and bearing it and Grace being the only aggressor, I actually like the Sapphire Crystal choice because you don't need the kind of random sampler that the Dark Seal provides.
Makes sense. Good decision overall. Glad we were able to cover that as well, as Grace looked good in game 1 and I suppose struggled a little bit more in game number 2, but once again gets a winning matchup and is having a much better time.
Just feels like we already know how this game ends. Keen gets too big on the Vladimir and takes it over.
Hey, don't spoil it. We're only 10 minutes in.
It was the Caulfield's Warm Hammer into the Longsword first buy, and no Executioner's Calling on the second back either. Went just full Kindle Gem. I don't think more cooldown reduction helps this lane state enough against the Vlad, who's now got his own bevy of CDR on the side of Afreeca Freecs. It's my preview there, so I don't want to be spoiling Valdez, but it's not inspired with confidence. They can turn these items into the Vladimir, getting anything other than CS for CS.
Well, I mean, I would agree, but after game 1, I suppose we should give them a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt, as they've proven at least today against Afreeca. They can show a little bit more than what we were expecting. Perhaps they can take advantage somehow here in the early game of this one to come back. So far, they are 1,500 ahead. They'll just have to keep that Vlad in check, as you were mentioning.
And if you make no mistakes, the problems with this drop never come up. You never get to the ultra late game without a Baron. The Syndra never has to awkwardly, defensively go to a side lane and just not be able to match the Sandra Vlad and get AoE'd or womboed down. From ahead, the Jin Air drop holds a lot of value. So there still is things here. But unfortunately, where there is opportunity for the best teams, we see warning signs for a Jin Air team who have just been unable to capitalize more reliably than not. Warrior and Chance are out there. Grace is still super far up.
Oh, he's trying for that one, was Dread.
Senin,
okay,
hello?
Senin.
I guess he also...
Keyboard issue.
Yeah, I guess he also, like the LoL gods who gave us the nice Drake spawns, is a big fan of perhaps Jin Air winning the first series they've had it. If you guys are wondering, no team has ever gone 0-18. I believe the worst is 2-16. Kongdu Monster did this as recently as last year.
Oh, you're talking about sets.
Yes,
right?
sets.
Okay.
Best of threes. I think Spenu won 2. That was the only one. It could have been 1-17, but I believe 2-16 is the worst ever. So 0-18 has definitely never happened.
Dread waiting again is going to show himself. They really want to get on top of the road. And the Devour's there, just barely on time. Nova has to flash for that one. Linderong is going to get hemoplagued, does World End himself to stay alive and clear out this wave as Keen's dominance in the lane continues.
And this is the only part that's askew. You know when you get the picture and they ask you what's wrong in this picture, what's off? You know, it's sometimes something really big if you're a young kid, it's something a little bit more technical if you're older. The thing that's off is that Keen is the one who's the aggressor in topside. He's the one who's threatening, and speaking of threat, Lissandra's coming.
Here she comes, but Root is able to get into safety. You can see a TP comes in, and Nova's going to be okay. They turn onto Brook here. Dread also taking a bunch of damage. Senin as well, gonna be denied that dash, and here comes Keen in a bit of trouble, has to flash himself, and the flash forward. They want to get that burst damage onto the Vladimir, and they will. 3 kills will go the way of Jinair.
It is all lined up for Jinair. Too late. Afreeca realized they had to get out. They were too overextended. Brook's going to die eventually on the back end. He's trying to explore new parts of the map. You don't need to do that. It's not civilization.
He's looking for a new exploration unit as he's going to go down too. That makes it 4 more kills to Jinair. And now they've got a 3,500 gold lead at 15 minutes.
All right, we definitely went from the advanced technique, what is wrong with this picture, to the much clearer, child-friendly version of this dive. They try to dive Nova, and then they realize, wait, we're out of extension, and aiming is tanking turret. We have no more threat on carries anymore. We're under the enemy turret without vision, and we're going to be flanked by Syndra, of all people, who doesn't have a TP in order to respond to this. They cut off the members. Aiming gets to see you later on the back end, but everyone else dies. The donations are a bit too genuine on the side of Afreeca, I would say. They're being very generous in this early game, and yet, it's not all over yet. They're trying to outnumber and take Rift Herald. This might be a freebie to Afreeca Freecs.
And it looks like it will be, as aiming's there, but Root is not. That means that up a man, Afreeca will be able to take this Rift Herald away. And with no plates down on the bottom side, the best that Root could try to do is put some pressure onto this turret, but is not going to be able to because Keen is here. So nice little win for Afreeca to catch up.
And right now, if you pause it and say who wins, purely based on where the items are at, it's a huge, huge lead for Jinair because they got their earlier spikes faster. The items take longer on Afreeca's side. They need 40,000 gold to get going, and exactly, things are coming together. You're pointing to the Executioner's coin, but it's so late it doesn't matter as much. But
like he finally got it.
2-item Ezreal's there compared to 1-item Vayne. Syndra has the 1-item power spike earlier than Lissandra. The Xin Zhao is going to have Sterix Gauge pretty soon, right? He's pretty strong. He's battle ready. So right now, there's just no way for Keen and aiming to match item timings at a pretty paltry amount of team gold, 24,000 gold. They need 40,000. They need at least 35,000. And if they continue to kind of walk into machine guns like they did on that inner turret dive, Jinair could run away with this game. So if we're purely being about where the champions are at, Jinair are even more ahead than the 3,500 gold shows.
It definitely was a bit of a donation by Afreeca. I don't want to take away anything from that, but I like that Jinair, they play around the Tristana kind of lane in the bottom side. They gank early for it. They get Root ahead and make that work. And then once again in Game 3, they return to a similar kind of idea where they play around, you know, the Ezreal with the Tomkins. They draft that super early to try to get Root into another decent lane. Definitely helps out against Afreeca, who's trying to dive by all standards, doesn't matter when or where.
Rift Herald's being employed just to get a turret trade. But as you remember, we had a game where Root got going on Ezreal, but they stayed bot lane after getting a big advantage and kind of squandered that position.
Yeah.
Actually, they had a lot more flexible lane assignments in this game, and the reason why I say that is, it's Vayne, right? Vayne is not going to wave clear in front of an Ezreal very well. Ezreal pushes the wave and then pokes with the Q, and it does most of Vayne's health bar, and she has no wave clear to stop. So actually, Ezreal shadowing Vayne when the supports are involved, when there isn't going to be a map lead and get ganked, gets more advantage, and their only price is an Ocean Drake on the bottom side. So this is a lot more straightforward for Root to keep piling on the pain. Right now, at least, there's nothing to wag your finger at when it comes to Jinair Greenwings in game number 3.
Man, it did feel like that we were not going to have a team go 0-18, right? It just feels so improbable, no matter, you know, where that team comes from or what level the players are at, it's just so hard to actually do that. And we were expecting one of these lower half teams to be the one to go down to Jin Air. But, I mean, it's not over yet, but we could actually have it happen here, which, again, wouldn't be the greatest feeling for Afreeca to slowly crawl down to a loss to Jin Air.
And if you came to me 2 months ago and then said, this would be the time, you know, I would have not believed it, right? I talked on my stream, I like to approach League of Legends analysis like Sherlock Holmes. In fact, if it happened, how would it have happened? And you just look at the rosters and you're like, no, that couldn't happen. But then if you came 2 weeks ago with Jin Air showing nothing, having no presence in games, it doesn't matter what the roster is, I'm still there being like, no, I can't see it. But then we see Jin Air get a bit better. We had that amazing Root pop-off team fight a couple of weeks ago. We see, in general, things happening in their games, and they definitely have with C's a lot more get up and go, right? They're definitely waking up in the morning and actually taking on the day. Again, you start to see it, but you needed the last piece of coming into the series today and refusing to run UCal in any of the 3 games, or Sun, their other mid laner, persisting with Brook in every game, and even in the matchup that he clearly couldn't handle a couple weeks ago. He's been better today, but last time out, this matchup was not LCK standard. You needed to give me all that, Valdez, and even then, it might not be enough.
Well, Nova will be the sacrifice here, as he's actually really fast.
Did he have Ghost there? It's possible, I guess.
I suppose so, as he does not have a cleanse, at least. Yeah, that was a very fast catfish, but didn't help him escape the hook this time.
But this was the team, if there ever was one, to go 0-18. There's been so many times where that's felt more likely than not over the course of their best of series. But now we load on all the things that have muddied the water, and I think even Sherlock Holmes would need till the 2nd episode to work it out. This is a tricky one, where Afreeca have really good scaling, they have Vayne, and a lot of threats for Vayne to hide behind, but they haven't hit that 40,000 goal we're looking for, or even 35,000 goals to even think about a fight. But if Jin Air don't find anything more, remember they've been in 5 kills for a while now, there's still light at the end of the tunnel for Afreeca Freecs.
There is. We'll see what they can do here, as you were mentioning kind of the spoilers of Game 3 and what it could have been if Akeen just got super fed on the flat and no mistakes were made. As speaking of mistakes, Dread with a very clean play here up against Nova.
Nova went up to Ward as his AD carry was being a bit too overextending with harassing, so it's actually a pretty understandable spot to die. I believe that is, yeah, it's Ghost. So he had Ghost on his spellbook there. That Ghost wasn't very useful against the kick from the Lee Sin, I should be mentioning. So kind of fell into lap of Afreeca, and they gleefully accept a way to delay the game and get some more global gold onto the team.
Hey, you get it killed onto aiming as well. Get him 300 gold and say, hey, here you go. A little bit quicker onto your next item. See when he actually does get there. Root and the rest of them trying to get more aggressive as aiming. Grace pulls it off, and the TP's going to come in. Brook, you're going to get knocked up, and down you should go. Is going to ult himself first, does flash away, and somehow finds a way to get out of there. Jin Air not able to time it to break that one, as it will be the flash and the TP, though, blown away from Brook as well.
But not his life. That looked like it would be a 2nd kill, maybe even a Baron start from Jin Air. Still, Brook needs to fully recall. They are not going to be able to keep this inner turret rolling. Big moment for Jin Air. The yes-no question of where is the burst range for a Syndra is always what you're paying attention to in competitive. Down goes the Lee Sin, and I was actually about to pose a question of, okay, you're going to have your Rage Blade soon as the Vayne. Is this a QSS or a stopwatch game? I wonder for the Vayne. You need the defensive item next, and after that moment, maybe stopwatch is the go.
Yeah, I mean, you could avoid a lot of the spears if it does come down to it with the stopwatch. But got to be careful as well to avoid that kind of play. It's under turret, and he still gets hit with a max range stun. Very well played by Grace.
Amy explodes. Rest in peace, the Vayne. Means that he doesn't get to farm up the last bit of gold. No doubt he's sitting on gold because you never want to actually buy the Amp Tome. It doesn't provide anything. You don't want to clog your inventory. Brook pushes on the top side slowly, but the slowly part is relevant. They're going to lose a Drake, and also will need to reset on the map. And now Abyssal Voyage. That seems Just defensive, okay. We get the full information. It's
Yeah.
the defensive Abyss Void. I think chasing there would have been foolhardy when they don't have vision in the area.
Yeah, could have been a Janair moment if they said, hey, you know, he doesn't have flash. Maybe we can do it, but may have been able to bait themselves in there. Either way, they just get a bunch of farm, and now we've got this super fed Syndra alongside of an Ezreal that picked up an Archangel staff. And you begin to wonder, Janair from this far ahead, can they close it? You know, we always have to be skeptical because of what we have seen in the past, but this looks like a fantastic moment for them right now, as long as they can avoid Vlad with 3-4 items and win a couple of these team fights up next.
But they're messy, Valdez. Of course, they don't have a lot of experience in trying to close out games where you have to overextend, and things like this happen. C's already has been caught, and Keen's flank. It seemed likely. We know it's coming.
Grace gets the stopwatch out of Dread, but it looks like C's might be in some trouble. Keen still at full health, trying to zone them away. Good taunt there by the side of Senin, trying to get in, and Keen is going 1v4 right now. He's going to be punished for it, and now Senin might be in a ton of trouble too. Tries to taunt up Linderang, but another max range stun from the side of Grace means that Janair is going to win this fight for now. Brook now is going on in. It's going to be burst to smithereens by the side of Grace, who picks up another kill.
They're able to pick up the kills here. That's 3 for 0. 3 for 1, I should say, on the side of Jin. They don't have the smite, but they want more kills.
They're coming on in. Nova's super tanky, and Grace and Ezreal here, Root, just do insane amounts of damage. Tom Kent can just tank it up for days, and they don't care.
And they're even pushing him in at the same time. They got to fight earlier before that 40,000 gold was in, and just like we outlined, it worked out. Dread's trying to waste time to allow the rest of his members to respawn, but that's the most he's going to do. He goes down, targeted E there, over the wall. But with the smite being dead and Unsealed Spellbook smite not available for Tom Kent, they don't lose the maximum. The Baron might have actually been a game ender with the fact that Vayne doesn't offer that wave clear against Baron buff minions. We watch the replay here, and C's just takes less damage at the start. Keen already has looked for the flank, and this is where you feel the creeping down. But it's a bit earlier than the team wants to respond, and Stopwatch buys so much time next to the Aatrox ult. Aatrox just sweeping away with his Q in the front line. Can't be matched. Keen doesn't have the items yet to be Malphite, Orianna, and a single champion like we talk about with the Vladimir, and does die at the end of the play.
Great mechanics there from Grace, actually, followed up by a near-perfect stun there. He's able to stopwatch just in time to deny the empowered Q from the Vlad and deny that health gain that could have kept him alive and kept him going in that backline, especially once the Galio followed up. So this guy stepping up today. I mean, we haven't been impressed by him so far before, but certainly looks like a much better mid laner today.
And don't get us wrong, that is definitely more than a body blow for Afreeca. There definitely is some tips of blood coming out there. Are they mortally wounded? Your thought is no. You feel like it's not done yet. They still have Vladimir with a death cap, 2 items on the Vayne. You can definitely mess up your target priority, and Vlad and Vayne can take it over. But it is close to being mortally wounded. This is a pretty big advantage. Only a Baron buff could be kind of bigger outside just a team wipe.
Well, Senin, you are not allowed to stand near the Ezreal and the Syndra.
No.
He's going to go down. Nice snipe here from Root. That means that it is going to be 5v4. Now, where do Janair go from here? They have a massive lead, 9,000 gold. Now they're up a member. Do they go to Baron, or do they just continue pushing with all of their poke in this comp?
The comms are off. Usually it's said where that ult is going. It was very predictable, and he jukes into it. Janair walk up. They don't want to make it about a Baron. They just walk up with their siege, and what is a Vayne to do against a siege like this?
Can't do anything, especially when you don't have that follow-up engage from the Galio to make room. As Brook just threatening it here with Galio just about to spawn. It looks like Janair, though, not going to overstay.
Another good moment for Janair. They don't overstay, and the window to overstay against Galio ult is actually a lot more aggressive, right? Galio can get back really fast. Still, we're seeing some aggression.
A World Ender does come in, though. He is going to survive. Sees trying to make some room for him here as well, and Brook takes a bunch of damage, so no follow-up. Huge damage as well. Trying to come forward as Root. He's got a red buff. Keen forced to pull out of this one. Stun not quite going to land, though, so they cannot follow up.
And you can just see the moment where it clicks in Root's head. He understands, wait, Keen doesn't have flash. There's no threat on the back line. Now that this comp has lumbered in and not found their man, we can re-engage with long-range damage to try to punish them. So I love seeing that, because if Jin Air was full defeaters, you just full-on recall on that spot. Instead, they still show that the Fangs are out. There is a chance for them to find some kills, because 2 kills there and the Baron rolls down, and suddenly the base is broken and maybe the first series is won by Jin Air Greenwings.
You can tell that they're finally feeling it here after so long, which is certainly a good feeling for them to get some confidence back and feel like they can actually...
Should we go on record?
Make some plays.
I think Jin Air does it. I think they're going to win this one.
I mean, Grace is just ridiculously fed. I don't even know why Dread is anywhere near him at this point. He doesn't have stopwatch. He has no way to get away. You're in ult range. You can't be there.
I think the chat's probably feeling it as well. I think Jin Air might have done it, Valdez. It seems like Afreeca just trying too many things and stacking the landing on most of them. They're not getting it together. Jin Air's actually trying to take multiple objectives here, but the lure of the Baron is definitely less than we might have expected. The damage from Root is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the Ezreal is still going to be an Ezreal. Root is a fantastic AD carry. Hasn't had a moment before now, but finally, he's getting his time to be that Ezreal.
That was an Inferno. It would have been a sick map play, but yeah, I don't know about the Ocean Drake there. They get it anyway. And it does mean no Elder spawning at 35. Again, would have delayed that one, but not something we see pro teams do. That is that was just an E into 1 round of spells.
Here we go, guys. We're taking off. Start the thrusters. Jin Air plane. Glad plane is coming off the runway here. Not going to push for more, though, as we're still going to wait. Jin Air, they know that they're close, but they're not going to overdo it.
And now Afreeca does have 45,000 gold. Yes, in a 10,000 gold disadvantage, but level 16 on Keen, he's going to have to flash, hop his way to the back line, and do it all himself.
Hey, everybody does dodge that one, and the pool is going to deny the Syndra ultimate. Keen trying to make a play here on a Grace, but a nice Devour gets him in, but Linderong is going to be ulted up. Grace super low. Trying to get in range of him now. Here is aiming. He's going to flash it, and he will get 1,000 gold. Is it possible? You talked about 45,000 gold. It's happening, Papa. They get a kill.
And that's the thing is Afreeca can't forget they have the Vladimir. His summoner is down. They only got a kill, but only a kill was enough for Baron in game number 2. And Jin Air have been very scared about pulling the trigger around Baron. The Baron for Afreeca is so big. If they can pick it up and they're going to go straight onto it, they know it's now or never.
Abyss Avoidance comes in immediately. They want to get Root in range
Here's
to try to stop this one.
Winner of this Baron wins the game.
Comes in. Vlad going to also TP himself. They may be able to turn onto him here. He's going to immediately pull. In goes the knockup as Root has other plans. Wants to go in there.
He's so aggressive.
Trying to kill Zenon. Brook nearly goes down the immediate Devour, but the Baron goes to the top. Kent! Nova gets the Baron! And it doesn't look like Afreeca are going to have it today. Jin Air are going to push for the win.
Jin Air Greenwings will not go down. They will win this series, and they'll do it now.
Finally, we can take off on the runway. The Glad plane is finally going to fly. After so many weeks and a month and a half, Jin Air should be winning their first series tonight.
We're going to see some real emotion here. These players have never won in the LCK, the majority of them. They'll close it out here. Nova flashes in, smites away, and they finally win after so much toiling in LCK Spring 2019.
It finally happens. We see high fives on the side of Jin Air. You see that the emotions will come out from the fans, from the coach. Immediately makes his way on over as the emotions not coming out just yet. It's hard to after 17 losses in a row, but you cannot deny that finally they have reached their goal of having a Glad plane fly.
And what does it look like to celebrate on the Jin Air Greenwings? For Root, he doesn't know. He's never won a series in the LCK. A lot of these other players have been around, but of course have just felt this sinking feeling again and again. It's their first bow to the Lowell Park crowd, the last of the 10 teams to do it for the first time.
Maybe the emotions come out in the interview because I'm sure we'll have some hard questions asked, like what does it feel like to finally win a series after this many series lost in a row? And it was 12, I believe, here in the spring split that they have lost. Finally, they pick up the 13th one. And Grace is definitely the one smiling. He had a great game. Wasn't the hardest opponent, as we mentioned before, but you still got to hand it to him. He's finally able to show up twice in a series and make it happen.
He actually just started hiding from the camera because he realized the camera was on him and he didn't know what the right way to look is. Not like he was doing a lot of winning last year either, as Jinair went to relegations again and again. Freecs, Keen, and the crew, I'm sure, want to pack up and get out of here as fast as possible. I think it starts with the selections today. I really don't understand going for something that, at best, beats Jinair and doesn't really play forward, because I don't think Brook is the solution against the other mid lane talent in LCK. And at worst, you don't get Yukal a series to get his confidence up, and now he has to play against an opposition that has to be sturdier than Jinair Greenwings. So Jinair pack up. Well-deserved victors of today. I think they were the better team on the day. And Grace has been, should be a second MVP of the LCK. They only have 3 to dole out, so 2 out of 3 is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, gotta hand it to him. I believe it was his Zoe play the first time around, and this time it's Syndra. You get to wonder, how many more series can this team pick up? As Linderong, definitely one of these guys that has been around for a bit longer than some of the other members on the side of Jinair, has looked very frustrated at times, one of the older guys here in the lineup, but finally gets to pack up after a win. It's got to feel damn good.
This is what you train for. The Jinair players practice as hard as all the other teams, but you never had one moment for them to feel like they'd made the right choice, to join this team, to become a pro gamer, all the other things that go through your head when you choose a vocation and people laugh at you and make jokes. We've been guilty of that, Valdez, because it's been tough to watch for the side of Jinair. They have been so far off the pace, but I think C's coming in, and Tana even, when he's had a couple of performances, have brought a bit of life back to what was feeling like a very dull Jinair Greenwings, and we actually get the confirmation of how that kill happened there.
Yeah.
Able to take down the Vlad on the flank. They close it out from there. We'll zoom back in. We showed Papa and Valdez, but we'll see how this one happened. Root will not be denied. This guy ain't afraid of anyone, and I stick by my analysis that if I'm a team looking for a new AD carry in a future split and Root's no longer on Jinair, he's always been up there in solo queue. He is very, very young, and what does he look like with a winning feeling behind him? We can only know for sure the next time Jinair play.
Wow. Well, we were here, Papa, alongside all the rest of the chat.
And that makes it worth it that we went through this 6.5-hour slog today. We had some very long series, 6 games, and at least the reward is there. Jinair Greenwings win their first series. They will not go through the ignominy of losing 18 best-of-3s in a row. Big victory for them. Will it change their relegation status? Almost certainly no. But at least they can say maybe. And today's not the day for anyone else to point and stop them. Today's the day for them to believe that anything's possible.
It definitely comes down to their games that they have left. And taking a look, I mean, they've lost to Kingzone, Genji, Damwon, and Sandbox here in the second round, which means they still have KT. They still have Hama Life. Some of these other teams that maybe potentially something magical could happen and they could avoid it. But again, it still is a far cry, but you never lose hope after a series like this.
Yeah, with a bad team. So that's something that instantly they should be awarded for, and they picked up the match victory. We went through so many series, man. Just win an early game, win a matchup, get something going. And it got going really fast. Winning game 1 here, I'm sure, was so important for their mentalities and stopping that record no one would want of 18 best-of-1s in a row. Nice kick flash from Dread, but Nova pranced away, and we know he got the last laugh after all.
Certainly did. It's funny to see the Syndra balls flying around her head like they're taking off like the Glad plane. Gray certainly had a fantastic game. So did Root towards the end. Their carries finally begin to pop off. Good early game for the Sindao as well. See, seems to be an upgrade from Malrang, which was a surprise after Malrang got so many first bloods early on in the split. But it does make sense now. See Grace, he flashes away and then he stopwatches the empowered Q that could have kept the Vlad alive. And then he lands this max range 1 to get the Galio too. So I would give it to Grace, as you were mentioning and hinting at before, Papa. Makes sense to me.
And we're all the winners because the picture that we have been denied for so long can finally, after the series win, be tweeted, and it's not in any sort of jest at Jinair. It's in celebration. A smiling plane is a simple thing, but it's something that has eluded Jinair all year. Congratulations to them. They won a series, they can have a victory dinner. Maybe the beef is out there. Was beef more expensive than pork in Korea? Steel comes in from Nova. What a hero on this Tom Kench. Anything should be on the menu for the Jin Air players tonight. They deserve it.
You can see how happy, especially, maybe not the younger players who are struggling with how to express their emotions on their first win, but the coach who comes running out and finally has a big smile on his face after this kind of game. Certainly heartwarming, as the damage in the gold graph tells a story. You said it best. I mean, Jin Air was just the better team today. Afreeca made a lot of poor decisions and interesting roster choices, and Jin Air took it and ran with it. They flew with it, and they looked great today.
And it seems like a weird time to pile on, but it feels like the true ramifications on Afreeca are even bigger than just losing to the no-hope team suggests. The roster, I don't think, is one that's going to go forward from this series loss. The individual performances weren't great. The shot calling, like it has been all season, was a bit wayward, so they don't pay anything positive forward, and the worry is they may pay some negativity forward, which is the absolute worst way a competitive squad can come away from best-of-3 series.
Yeah. Gray's going to pick this one up. Some really stellar Syndra play, just in general. I mean, he looked fantastic on this pick. And it's just another one that he has in his arsenal. You ban out his Zoe, well, you got to consider that Syndra for the future.
He played really well in this game. Even the small moments you were pointing out about as some really good scatter the weeks. And then, of course, the standard I'm ahead. Why would you walk into range of me comes in as I
Dread walks back. He's like, it looked like he was trying to dodge a stun, but like, even so, just
it reminds me of, you remember Clippy, the helper tool on Microsoft Word? Oh, I see you were trying to get a kill here. Let me help you out.
Let me donate my body. Here you go. Thank you.
He's just a kind soul.
Yeah. Nothing was going right in that game. Dread, after that, got a couple of flashy kicks, but
now you need some time. Work out the wording for this. You got to throw to a very interesting interview for the first time.
Well, I don't have much time. I'm going to hand it to Ji-sun for the first interview of the Jin Air Greenwings.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Ji-sun with today's interview translation, and we're going to be hearing from Jin Air Greenwings for the first time, joined by Ruth and Grace.
저쪽 외국 해설분께서도 엄청나게 큰 소리로
English casters were so happy for your victory today. How do you feel right now? I can't believe this. Recently, we were doing so poorly during the screens, so it's hard to believe that we finally got the win.
정말 값지고 감동스러운 승리고요.
It's a very emotional moment. What about you, Grace? This is so surreal. I can't feel anything. Maybe I got used to losing a lot.
그 연패를 오늘 끊어냈으니까요.
But you guys finally stopped the longest losing streak. It's time to enjoy your happy moments.
전적으로 정말 달라진 경기력을 요즘 보여주고 계세요.
Seems like Jin Air evolved today. Can you feel that?
이번 주 월요일까지
Well, until this Monday,
좋았다고 저 생각했는데
I think we were doing quite well, but recently we were doing so bad in the practice games, so I was so worried. But recently, I'm so happy that we were able to come back from the bad performance, so I'm really happy. Grace, your performance was on point. How do you rate yourself today? I did fairly well. I don't really think I changed a lot, but it looks good in game. Jin Air is improving with C's in the jungle. How's your synergy with him? Well, he like goes in really well. I mean, all the junglers in my team has their strong points, so they are both good.
자, 1세트 얘기 먼저 해보겠습니다.
Talking about game 1,
나왔음에도 불구하고 트리스타나를 픽하셨어요.
Sivir showed up on the side of Afreeca, but you locked in Tristana. Why was that?
초반에
In the early game,
갈리오 갱홍 좋은 걸로
Galio has a great follow-up for the gank, so
라인 싸워서 다이브를 하는 거예요.
we were planning a turret dive in the early phase of game. And then we saw a ward in the bush. So he's made a call that he is able to pull up some level 2 ganks, so we were able to pull that off.
네, 굉장히 빠른 타이밍에 시즈 선수가 왔는데 이때 와드 지원자를 이제 보셨다고 말씀하신 거죠? 네, 이렇게 깔끔하게 잘
This was a very clean gank over there. Is that the moment that you guys gained the momentum?
네.
I guess.
그때 1세트에서는 정말 진에어가 확
Speaking of
달라졌다는
game
모습을
one,
확인할 수 있었습니다.
I can say Jinair
그리고
was
이
in
세트는
a
다소
better
아쉬웠지만
form compared to
토르
previous
정말
performance.
컸어요.
Game 2 was a bit of an happy set, but you did put a lot of damage on Quirky, and then game 3 you did amazing game on your Syndra today. Syndra is a really good counter pick against Lissandra. I remember Showmaker playing it last time, so that's why I prepared
정말
it.
멋진 모습 나왔습니다. 특히 솔킬 내는 장면도 인상적이었고요.
There were a lot of solo kills as well. Let's check out some replays.
네, 화면이 준비가 되어 있지
We are
않다고 하는데요.
Not ready with the replays.
22분 때 솔킬
Sorry.
장면 기억하시죠?
You remember there's a solo kill in the 22
네,
minutes?
맞습니다. 그때 스킬 연계가 정말
Clean
인상적이었는데 한 번에
engagement
잡아낼
and
수
just melt it
있다는
down.
생각을 하셨어요?
성장 너무 잘해가지고.
Well, I was fed really well,
제가 신들 좀 많이 했거든요.
and I played Syndra a lot, so I knew I calculated everything.
해주셨습니다. 아 그리고 바론 스틸 장면 정말
And the Baron
인상적이었어요. 탐켄치가 분풀주로 강타로 확 잡아내는
Tom
장면이
Kent with the
있었는데
unsealed spellbook,
그때
he
바론을
used
스틸하겠다는
his smite and stole the Baron.
탐켄치 말이 있었나요?
Did he call that?
네.
스마로 바꾼 것도 몰랐어요.
I didn't even know that he changed his spell to smite.
작년 썸머 때도 노바 형이 잘
But
바꿨거든요.
in the last spring summer split, Nova was so good at stealing with his unsealed spellbook, so I was trusting him.
그린윙스는 누가 주로 오더를 하는지 궁금해요.
Who's the main shot caller in Jin Air?
얘기해 주실 수 있으신가요?
다 같이 얘기하는.
We all have a lot of communications in game.
게 노바 찬호 형이.
Well, but I think
자,
Nova is the
노바
main shot
선수는
caller in
뚜뚜로
my
많이
team.
모여서 잘 협력이 되는 편인가요, 요즘에?
Is Nova in the center of your teamwork? We sometimes have different ideas, but overall, yeah, maybe I can say that.
잘 맞아가고 있습니다. 자, 길고 긴 이제 연패에
It was a
나오면서
long struggle.
정말 많이 하셨습니다.
I cannot even imagine how hard it has been. So, any message for your fans
처음에 연패할 때
during the losing streaks?
미안했었거든요.
I was so sorry for my fans.
감사하다.
I'm really thankful for them.
네,
And I always appreciate the support.
계시는 모습이었습니다. 감사하고요. 자, 그레이스 선수도
And Grace, you wanna
감독님께서도 참 오래
say any message
기다려주셨잖아요.
for your
같이 인생 많이
head coach or
했는데
your coaching staff who has been waiting for you guys to come back?
오늘 고생 많으셨어요.
It has been a tough journey. Thank you, head coach.
더 고생할 수도 있지만
It can be another extensive
최대한
struggle,
고생
but
덜 해드리겠습니다.
I'm gonna do my
네,
best to
진행
not make it
선수들이
struggle.
힘 냈으면 좋겠습니다. 다음 경기
The
하나생명전이에요.
next opponent will be Hana Life Esports.
하나생명 지난 번에도 이길 뻔했는데
We almost took them down in our
잘 준비하면
previous
이길 수 있을 것 같아요.
games, so if we
네,
prepare
잘
enough, I think we will be able to take them down this time.
각오한 말씀 부탁드립니다.
And Root,
하나전 때
I wanna do.
안 밀리고
I wanna
이길 수 있을 것
win. If we not lose in lane, in the bot lane, I think we can take down Hana Life
자, 오늘
Esports.
인터뷰 우트 선수, 그레이스 선수
So
감사드리고요.
thank you very much for this
앞으로도
interview,
계속
Ruth
이겨나가시길
and Grace, and
진심으로
glad
바라겠습니다.
Plan eventually
감사합니다.
takes up tonight. So
감사합니다.
I hope they can land on
네,
destination that they want.
LCK 2019
Just to wrap up today's very long day, and I'm gonna pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ji-sun, for that translation. You got a feel for Root,
Oh,
who, again, I think it's definitely his first
Yeah.
time up there on stage
Yeah.
doing an interview. Obviously very nervous, doesn't know how to feel after finally getting that win. But man, that guy's got some skill. Maybe not in the interview, maybe struggling with his emotions right now, but on the Rift, definitely a fantastic player.
You just wanted to walk up and hug him. Maybe
Yeah.
that's just me, but I was just
No.
looking at this, kind of cute kitten there who's just doesn't know. It's a new spot for him. They've never won a match. They won a best of 3 against a very low-level secondary team in the Kesper Cup, but that's a long time ago, and he didn't play both games. So, yeah, must be a world of new emotions for Root, who, like you mentioned, Scrim's going extra worse, I guess, recently, so they had even lower expectation today. But it comes together on the day. Root has really proved himself to be a player that I think will be around for a long time. I think he does have some really great skills there in the bot lane, and Grace, on his day, has been pretty good too. So, wow, congratulations, Jino. We couldn't know that today would be the day, but the team sheet was the one where you thought maybe it would be, and now you go back and can definitely put it all together. But you had to see it to believe it. Jino Greenwings win a best of 3.
It finally happened, and as LS would say, the balance is finally broken. Does this mean that Griffin loses a series? Is another question.
SKT fans, I'm sure there's a lot of them in chat looking forward to tomorrow's series. We'll hope that's what it means. But if you actually follow the money, that was their 13th best of 3, so maybe Griffin beat Sandbox and SKT. I actually don't know who they play later. You can maybe find a little bit of time to find that, but We'll see if it is a tomorrow thing or if it's a longer term thing, but Jin Air will not be the reverse Griffin unless we see Griffin actually miss a beat.
Well, the 13th best of 3 for Griffin is Gen G. So if we are maintaining the balance, that means that Gen G is going to beat Griffin somehow. But enough of the memes. Tomorrow is serious business. SKT versus Griffin, the first match of the night, 5 p.m. KST on a Friday. You do not want to miss that. That'll be brought to you guys by Atlas and Papa, bringing you the action. I'll be watching at home in the chat. Should be an insane series.
I'm hoping that SKT can actually rock up and show the aggression they've seen in recent series. Their first series against Griffin, very forgettable. They were out of it very early. 80 carries for Teddy. Action-packed series should come out. And then we finally see KT after their long break.
It's going to be a great day tomorrow for sure. Today was a great day in its own right. Jin Air finally picked that one up.
Glad plane, baby.
We're finally in the air, guys. Took a while, lots of technical difficulties, but after 13 series, the Jin Air Greenwings have flown in the air with a big smile on their face. No more crying, no more sad planes. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time here at